Hello everyone, and welcome back to my series of videos showing the making of a small pipe organ. I thought we'd turn the camera around for this one and show the view, the lovely Dorset countryside. This is the view out of the window where I work at my bench. So I'm a very lucky boy. So this is part two of the keyboard. We're going to put the coverings on, we're going to cut the slab up into levers at the sharps, clean everything up, finish the keyboard off completely, and next move on to the casework. So thank you again for everyone for following this, and I look forward to seeing you in this next installment, finishing off the keyboard. Okay, so the naturals of this keyboard are going to be covered in English boxwood. Now it looks rather unassuming in its natural raw state, but trust me, when you get inside these logs, it's basically this is found in hedgerows here in the UK, and very slow growing, so very hard, ideal for key coverings. But inside, the grain is just beautiful. It's just perfect, and it's very tactile and really beautiful to use for this purpose. Now I'm just cutting it down to the width, the exact width, within 1/10 of a millimetre on this small saw, and then so I can glue them. I cut them to length obviously, and then I glue them onto the slab at the front using all the lines that I drew out in the first video. And there they are before they're cleaned up, and there they are after they're cleaned up. I'm sorry that I did this on my phone in portrait mode for some reason, but anyway, you get the gist. I've marked all those out now, and those squiggly lines are the sharps obviously, so those once the slab has been cut up, those will be removed. So we're onto the bandsaw to divide up the slab into its levers. This is a special blade with no kerf on it, so it's quite narrow. This is probably the most nerve-wracking moment of the whole organ. The first cut into the keyboard, because there's a lot of work that's gone into getting the keyboard to this stage, and you really don't want to screw this up. In fact, you can't afford to screw this up at all. You've got to really, really concentrate. The wide blade helps keep the line straight, so it's 1.25 inches wide, this blade. And because it's got no kerf, the kerf meaning that each blade is slightly offset, so it clears the wood as you cut it. This doesn't clear it, so you get a little bit of burning, as you can see on the side. But that's okay, because that will be cleaned off during the cleaning up process. So I've split this up now, and we just have to take our time and be as careful as possible. It's quite scary, this. I'm taking it into chunks of 7s and 5s, so that, sorry, 4s and 3s are naturals, obviously. So you've got the C, D, E, and then you do the F, G, A and B, and there they are cut into their sections, and then I've got to separate them using a little coping saw. Can't think of a better way of doing this. This works fine now. You cut it just short of the line, obviously, because you've got to clean up to the line. So you leave a 2 or 3 millimetre gap between the front of the natural and the sharp, so they don't touch each other. A very fine blade on this, which is perfect for this process. So we just work our way through these. And the next stage is we cut the sharps to length. So these are the front of the sharps, still with their natural coverings on, which will be taken off in a minute. They're cut so that you're taking about 1 millimetre off at a time, just to have them nice and uniform. You'll never see this once the keyboard is made, but it's a good practice, obviously, to get it as neat as possible. to take this opportunity just to apologise for being so slow to get these videos out. I'm not a YouTuber. I do have to make a living, and these are quite time-consuming, these videos. But anyway, I hope everyone understands that, and we will get there in the end, I promise. Right, so once we've cut them to length, we can set the saw up to just skim off those natural boxwood coverings which we don't want, because obviously we're going to glue the sharps on top of the bare wood of the lime of the key lever. So it looks a bit scary, this. We're using, showing a lot of the blade, but you get a better finish if you've got the blade higher. The blade is almost vertical when it cuts. And you can see on the other side the bushing cloth. So we'll just speed this up. And then we're on to the back of the keys, where we've got the guide slots for the guide pins at the back. So I've routed out a little slot before I've cut the levers out, just the same thickness of these little homemade guides, which I will glue on. And if you remember from the pallets on the wind chest, this is exactly the same. These are exactly the same type of inserts that we use on the back of the keys. So just a simple rub joint will suffice here. And then they will be, once that is dry, they'll be cleaned off with the plane. It's all part of the process of cleaning up the sides of the keys. And then the tricky bit now is to tidy up the front of the keys, the back of the front of the keys, if you see what I mean, of the naturals. So I'm cutting a horizontal line there, or vertical line there, and then a slightly angled line there, just as like a relief. And that's actually the same square that I use for marking out the dovetails on the keyframe. And this lime is probably the number one choice for wood carvers. Grinnan and Gibbons will have probably done most of his carvings in lime. It's beautifully suited for carving. So actually, it's lovely. If you've got a sharp chisel, this is quite a satisfying process. This. So it's a bit like doing the dovetails. We just take our time. And just nibbling back to that knife edge. And once we've cleaned all the sides of the keys up, we're just going to put a little bevel on the front of the keys. It just cleans it up, and it's also it's purely aesthetic, really. You won't find this on piano keys. But it makes it's historically correct, and it does help slightly when it helps the player not to clip the note next door to it. It's if you've got a slight bevel on, you can see there just a very slight chamfer on the sides of the keys. I think they look nice like this. And you've got two scoring lines as well, which is historically what they used to do. I'm trying to really make these look like harpsichord keys, and I feel like harpsichord keys, because this is a continuo instrument, and it's used mainly for Baroque repertoire. Often a harpsichordist will play the continuo organ as well. So onto the buffing wheel. This is just a little bit of nothing soap, put it onto the wheel, and then we'll just, this box would comes up beautifully like this. There's no other finish needed here. And then there we are, the finished naturals. And we move on to the sharps. Now on this instrument I'm going to use the walnut that I used for the key cheeks. I haven't done it before. I usually use ebony or rosewood, but actually I've got so much of this walnut I thought it'd be quite nice to give it a go. So I've made up the blanks and I've sawn them to size, so they've got slight saw marks, which I'm just planing off here. And there they are. So then I've just got to clean up the front slightly sloped edge on the front of the sharp to get rid of the saw marks again. I'll work my way through this. I'll probably start on a 150 grade and finish on a 240. And maybe even go up to 400 with the fronts. Then we glue on the sharps. And you can see a little spacer I put on the back, on the rail at the back there. That's just so that they're all uniform. Again, just a rub joint with this glue, it's all you need. Most of this is done by eye, but I will check with the square as well. It's remarkable how close you can get with the naked eye. It's incredibly critical, or incredibly accurate, the human eye. But this is crucial because anyone with a little bit of OCD will see any sort of slight incorrection in the way these sharps have been mounted, or the gaps between the naturals, or the size of the naturals. And someone's commented, I know, on the previous videos, do I do all the naturals the same width? And actually, yes, I do. I see where they're coming from. I understand their point, because you get a much wider gap between the C sharp and the D sharp, as you would between the F sharp and G sharp and A sharp. The gaps, sometimes if you've got stubby fingers, you do sometimes struggle to get in between the keys. But I do intend to make my sharps put them on the narrow side, so you don't have a problem with that. But I couldn't possibly do the naturals different widths that the eye will pick it up. The eye is so critical, the naked eye, and also it's I've never done it. It's not something that I would do. We just work our way through all of these. We're nearing the completion of the keyboard now. There they are before they're put into the frame. And then now I've got to make what's called, I call the noses, which are the connection between the key and the sticker, the action underneath. And there it is underneath the key. So I've machined these up, cut them to length. I've just got to cut a little slope on them with this jig, so that when the keyboard is pulled out and pulled, which on these instruments you slide the keyboard in and out like a drawer, and so you have to engage the action as it is pulled out. So this slope just slides onto that at the top of the sticker, or the adjustable collar which they sit on. And these holes I'm drilling now will line up with the holes in the key, which we saw in the first video. Again, just a simple jig, drilling the pilot holes with the screws. And then we'll turn it, we'll just advance the jig slightly so that we can drill the second hole. And then we have to attach the nose to the underside of the key using glue and screws. The screws are purely for clamping, really. They're not necessarily you could clamp it on, but actually the screws locate where the nose goes on the key because they're evenly spaced underneath, but they're not evenly spaced within the key because the key gaps are different, which is what we were talking about earlier. And the nose has been coated in or lined with a piece of leather there to quieten the action. So that piece of leather will engage with the action underneath. This was filmed back in February, I think, so it's the woolly jumper. So we'll just finish doing all of those, and then that is the keyboard finished. We've just got to mount all the keys back into the frame, and there it is. I hope you agree. I think the walnut is quite smart, and the walnut's just oiled, just like the rail and the front rail and the cheeks. They're just oiled with good old Danish oil, and yeah, I think that walnut looks great, doesn't it? Anyway, there it is. We're going to move on to the casework next, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching.